everyone. I'm Denise, Garth, Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco, and you're listening to the Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast series. Follow along as I interview the best and brightest leaders in the insurance industry and insurtech landscape to bring you the latest in digital transformation, innovation, industry trends, challenges, and opportunities, as well as next-gen technologies. We use our experience to anticipate what's next without losing sight of what's now. Stay tuned to find out your next now. Welcome, everybody, to today's Future of Insurance podcast series. I am thrilled to welcome one of our partners, FIS, with Angus Botham. Angus, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. It's nice to be here.
Angus, this is a small industry, and typically everybody kind of knows everybody, but I like to have everybody that's on my podcast give a little bit of background about yourself, give a little bit of background about FIS and our strategic partnership, just to kind of give the context.
Sure. My name's Angus Botham, as you said. I'm a product specialist in insurance for FIS. I'm based in New York City. I've worked in and around reinsurance for over 35 years. I started working for a London reinsurance broker in the mid-80s. And since then, I worked for a primary carrier who was opening an office in London, a US reinsurance company in their London office. And then I joined a insurance software provider 25 years ago who ultimately were bought by FIS. And that's how I come to be part of the FIS family. I work with prospective clients and existing clients just to make sure that the solution is giving them what they need and they can use it efficiently. And I also have input into the product development and direction moving forward. FIS is a global fintech company. We are top 500 global company. We have 70,000 employees globally, with about 20,000 clients, and we cover all sectors of the financial industry. For insurance, which is where we're slightly less known, we are still pretty big. We have 30,000 insurance company clients in over 80 countries, and we have a full suite of insurance solutions covering the full vertical through risk management, policy admin, workflow, and financials. That's me and FIS. The partnership with Majesco started a couple of years ago, and we worked together we have a standalone seeded reinsurance solution called Reinsurance Manager. And we worked with Majesco to build a bridge from the Majesco Policy and admin and claims system to feed the data into the FIS Reinsurance Manager. So when a client has both solutions, it works as one solution for them because the integration is built in out of the box. And we worked extensively at the beginning to build and test that interface, and it is now starting to show fruit. We are now working with our first client through this partnership.
So it's been great working with you guys. And over the last few years, as risk has increased and the cost of insurance has increased, and quite frankly, the cost of reinsurance has increased due to the macroeconomic conditions, reinsurance has really risen to the top of mind for many insurers, both in getting access and then managing it effectively. But a lot of insurers, unfortunately, are still using highly manual processes or spreadsheets or even legacy systems that they might have developed themselves to manage their seeded reinsurance business. And sometimes that leaves money on the table, so to speak. What are the business drivers that you're seeing as you're working with your clients as to why they're moving to a modern reinsurance management solution that leverages technology and that connection or that bridge that you talked about between like our policy system and your reinsurance management system?
I think we see two or three main drivers. And one of those is, as you said, the increasing complexity and importance of reinsurance. If you're managing fairly straightforward quota shares, maybe one or two excess of loss, it's doable on spreadsheets. We certainly wouldn't recommend that. With those cost pressures are increasing, people are looking to get creative, placing their reinsurance in a way that gives them the coverage they need at a cost that's digestible to them. So we are seeing increasingly complex reinsurance agreements going into place, which are just becoming unmanageable manually. So having a system that's flexible and powerful enough to manage those for you automatically without those things of, copying data between places, doing manual calculations is a big driver for people. There's also increased oversight, both internally and externally. That's from regulatory reporting, but internal audit, internal security. They're just not accepting now that you've got tens of millions of dollars worth of company data is being managed in spreadsheets. That's becoming less acceptable. So they're looking for secure solutions that will give them that accuracy, that data security and data accessibility. And the third one I would mention that you slightly touched upon is leakage. I think other than one client I know, because we implemented as soon as they started writing business effectively, every client we have implemented with has found money that they had not recovered due to missing out on claim recoveries that their manual process didn't allow them to capture. So that varies from a few tens of thousands of dollars up to six and seven figure amounts that they've discovered they could have recovered. So it's a combination of things: increasing complexity, regulatory and compliance overview, and reinsurance leakage. It's a reality in pretty much every company that has reinsurance, and costs are rising. So making sure you're not leaving any money on the table is becoming increasingly important.
So, one of the things too, I think that is really important is that what we're seeing in the marketplace is this, and we're seeing with a lot of our clients, is with all of this changing or increasing types of risks. Either some risks are becoming much more intense, like, for example, some of the properties, depending upon the locations that you might be at, that is increasing in risk, or cyber is increasing in risk. And we have new types of risk kind of introducing. And with that, then, insurers are really innovating around some new products to be able to really kind of provide that kind of coverage in interesting new ways. It may be through parametric insurance. It may be through an actual fully loaded type of product. But what that means is that if we're doing these new products and we're trying to cover these different types of risks, reinsurance becomes even more important to be able to kind of track and manage. Talk about what you're seeing in that whole arena as people are innovating with new products and as risks are shifting and changing.
You're exactly right. And you mentioned cyber, and that's a great example. We've had experience with existing clients who, as they've, cyber is becoming increasingly important and they are offering new products for them. There's a sense of unknown. So having reinsurance to back them up as they expand into these new areas. You mentioned cyber, so I mentioned cyber, but also coastal property insurance. With the increase in severity and frequency of weather events, companies who provide that sort of insurance are getting wary. So as they look to tailor their offerings to be more secure, they are looking for backup from their reinsurers, and they are getting creative in ways to achieve that so that they can expand into these new areas, offer new exciting products, and have the backup of, well, we've got the reinsurers behind us, so we know we can do this, not completely risk-free, but we have got that backup and that security. So it is, we're seeing that feeding through as our clients offer new things. They are looking to get new things from their reinsurers.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about your reinsurance solution and the robustness of it and how it is differentiated in the market to be able to handle this wide variety of really kind of traditional insurance to some of these newer types of insurance, and then kind of the different demands to be able to have different types of risk reinsurance coverage?
It's a well-established product. It's been around for over 20 years. It was developed in conjunction initially with a reinsurer and an insurance company to manage their retro and seeded business. And it's expanded and developed since then. And it's always been a standalone product. We've never had, until the partnership with Majesco, we've never had a preferred platform to receive data from or a tie-in with anybody. So it's always been designed to be able to take data from multiple systems. With mergers and acquisitions, a lot of our current clients use multiple policy and admin systems, some of them older, some of them newer. So the ability to be able to take and use that data from a wide variety of platforms is one of the things. And because reinsurance is always seen as business between two professionals, there's always been a lot of flexibility in reinsurance contracts. It's increasing now, the complexity and some of the scope of the terms that we're seeing to tailor the business more precisely, but it's always been a flexible, changeable business place, reinsurance. So our system has always been, from day one, it's always been flexible. We've allowed things that nobody wanted just because, well, you don't know, you might want it tomorrow. We've always tried to leave things as open as possible because we know that people using it are professionals. They don't necessarily need a lot of restrictions on what they can and can't do in the system. And we are now seeing things that we didn't think we would see needed are being used. And because we've always allowed that flexibility, they can now make those changes to the contracts without needing customizations, just because it's the flexibility. And that's one of the things we see. Because we are a standalone, we're not tied into any particular product, we have always allowed a great deal of flexibility in configuring the system to match the data that's coming in. So that flexibility allows us to cope with a lot of the complexities we are now seeing, not necessarily by design, just because we have that flexibility. One of the things we see, we have a team of very seasoned professionals behind the scenes who know insurance, who know reinsurance, so they can work with clients when they have questions about a particular contract. We can sit down with the contract wording with them and go through it and see how it can be supported by the platform.
One of the things that you kind of mentioned is, working with a lot of your clients, you've tried to do that bridge to multiple different policy systems. But what we did together was really doing something that allowed what I call out of the box integration between Majesco's policy for P&C and the FIS reinsurance management solution. So that day one, that integration is there and we're keeping that up to date with both of our releases. And that creates real kind of value and business impact for customers day one, but also long term from a total cost of ownership perspective. Talk about that approach that we took and what you're seeing with the first client that we've got working with it.
And you're exactly right. It is. We've always, prior to this partnership, we'd always been in a position we would go into a new client, we'd have to work with whatever systems they had, talk to their vendors or their internal teams, and start building that interface from scratch, because it was very little was reusable from prior clients. Even if they were using the same system, the configuration might be different or their use of it. What we built with Majesco, which is great, is we know the key components of reinsurance are supported by the data, as you say, from day one. The client can start using Majesco, press a button, we will be able to take that data and we know we can support the vast majority of their reinsurance. I'm not going to say 100%, because one of the things, the approach we took is it easily allows customization, because there will always be cases where a specific piece of data is a unique need for a client. So it's not part of the core feed. But what we're seeing as we started working with our new mutual client is that the whole process for our implementation has been accelerated, because we're not starting from, okay, what data system are you using? How are you using it? Let's see your data. Within a week of starting the implementation, we have test data coming into our system. So it's an absolute just quantum shift for us, because we are, we're sort of starting halfway along the path we used to have to take. So, and it gives the client that increased efficiency on the implementation, and it just makes the implementation much smoother, because we have a known quantity of the data coming in, and we've worked with it effectively before, because we've worked with Majesco on building that bridge.
Really saves a lot of time and cost, both initially and longer term. One of the things that we talked about earlier is, there's a lot of things happening in the marketplace that are really driving a lot of change in the industry. What do you see as the key trends that will require insurers to really look at modernizing the reinsurance management with deep integration into policy systems? I mean, we talked about a few things, but what do you see out coming forward, Angus?
I think there's a couple of areas where we're seeing change. One is changes to the insurance product themselves. I mean, you've mentioned cyber, things like parametric insurance. How is that going to impact reinsurance? And what is that going to mean for the clients who now suddenly find they have a different reinsurance need? So having a flexible, powerful system that they can use allows them to make those changes and adapt to those differing requirements based on their business much more easily. There's also changes to the reinsurance market. As you mentioned earlier, rising costs, pressures on rates and things. The method of delivering reinsurance is changing. And there are lots of ways, insurance-linked securities, cat bonds and things like that are changing the way reinsurance is provided. So we are seeing, again, the need for a company to be able to adapt easily without having to rework their entire system or come up with completely new manual processes to do this. Having a system where they know they can change the configuration, set up a contract in a certain way, and it will support those new requirements. And then I suppose the final thing, which I'm not sure I have an answer for, but it's looming over, and it's certainly something we are taking an interest in, is something like AI. What is going to do to the insurance, reinsurance market, both from how the business works, but also how it can affect the tools that we provide to our clients to support that business. That's something we've been looking at for quite a while now internally at FIS, company-wide, as well as looking at how it might impact the insurance vertical specifically. But, that's a huge thing coming down the line that who knows where that's going to lead.
A lot of change happening in the industry, and I'm so glad that we've got this partnership with you because it's one less worry that our joint customers have to worry about as they're trying to really accelerate and innovate and optimize their business. But one of the things I like to do at the end of my podcast series, Angus, is have you pick one word or phrase to describe the future of insurance. What would that be for you?
I think it would be exciting. I've worked in and around insurance for 35 years, and I actually find reinsurance specifically quite exciting anyway. But some of those things that are coming, the things we've talked about, both on the technology side, but also just the new business models that are being developed to offer more efficient coverage, better, broader coverage for new risks that are becoming apparent, like cyber, increased weather activity. So how are insurance companies going to react to that, and what products are they going to come up with? And obviously then that drives what reinsurers and the reinsurance industry has to come up with to protect and support those new initiatives, those new products. So there's lots of different developments on the business side that just make the future look very exciting. And then on top of that, you've got the technology side, which we just mentioned, how that is going to impact the tools that are provided to support that new business landscape.
Well, there's one thing for sure, Angus, it is exciting. The need for reinsurance is only getting greater as risk continues to grow and as demands are placed on operationally on insurers. So it's going to be an interesting next decade ahead for us.
Yes, I completely agree.
Well, Angus, thank you so much for your insights today and talking about the partnership. We're thrilled to be partnering with you guys and looking forward to the joint work with additional customers in the coming year.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure, and we're excited to be working with Majesco and looking forward to the future.
Thanks, Angus.
Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast. Subscribe to our market-leading podcast series available wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in the next time.